Why do we need a women's environment and development organisation? Aren't the mechanisms in place already to deal with problems in the environment?
Well, I think people tend to forget that we came out of the first Rio conference where it was obvious that women needed to be part, and they were actually very instrumental in giving the human face to the environment and development arena. And it's been ongoing work for 20 years up to the climate change processes and next Rio plus 20.
And what, from your perspective, what is really holding women back? What are the key factors that ensure that women's voice is not heard in arenas such as this?
I think what we've seen also in this process is that there are inconsistencies in women's participation, and what we've really strived for in our processes of getting women's leadership and women's advocacy for gender equality, to get a consistent participation of women's leadership in these processes, because what happens when it falls off, when the participation falls off, it gets taken off the board. And I think then people tend to forget that there are 50% women in the world who need to be included in this process. So it's about the consistent participation. It's not about a one-time participation. It's a consistent participation on all decision-making levels, on all policy-making levels, but also on the implementation levels, and also both globally and nationally. Because the challenge remains for us, how do we bring the global decisions to the national and local women?
And at the moment we have Christiana Figueres, head of the UNFCCC, yes. Minister Mashabane, and obviously Minister Espinosa from COP16. Are those signs to you that we're already seeing progress in this sphere, or are they almost the icing on the cake, but a cake that doesn't really contain many sort of female elements?
No, I think they're all wonderful women who've earned their respect and who've earned their place, and there are many, many more. But like I said, women are 50% of the world, so why is that so rare, or why doesn't it happen more often? And not only at this level, not only in certain conferences, for instance, why aren't we seeing it the same thing in technology? And what we'd like to see is across the board that consistency of women's participation.
And what is holding women back? Is there a case for having quotas in certain departments or certain secretariats? How can you push forward the cause of women around the world?
Well, I think it's both necessary. We've seen that in some places that works. It doesn't always work, but sometimes it's necessary to say, yes, we need the assurance that at least 50% of the participation is women, and you need some sort of rule for that. On the other hand, it's also much more about the content also, because the women are not only concerned about having a face there, but we just recently did some work with women from Uganda, Ghana, and Cameroon on Red Plus women in their countries. And what came out was that for all three of these countries, the women felt that where action needed to be taken was that they needed to be included in the finance and benefit schemes that are being developed, that are being planned, and they need to have the assurance that those finance and benefit schemes will benefit their communities on the ground.
And how do you ensure that they are included? It can't, if it was easy, then presumably we'd be doing it already. How can you ensure that they are always included?
It's not at all easy. But we try to develop methods, we try to develop strategies to be able to do it. For instance, with these women, we facilitate with them, we go into the country with them, we work with them, we have workshops with them, and then we hold multi-stakeholder dialogues. First, after they have capacity building of their own, they then go into a process, a multi-stakeholder process, not only with other women's organizations and other civil society, but also with government representatives and private sector representatives, whoever is working on those issues. And in those multi-stakeholder dialogues, they are then able to bring forward their issues and what is important for them to be included in whatever national planning is going on.
And is there much that you've seen over the past 5-6 years while you've been working in this area that makes you optimistic for the future?
Oh yes, I think what we're seeing, even we ourselves, WeDo is one of the founders of the Global Gender and Climate Change Alliance, and it's these sort of alliances because it's an alliance of civil society, UN agencies, intergovernmental agencies, and we work very closely together with the parties to make sure that all the interests are there and to make sure that we can reach compromises that make sense for everybody. And what we're seeing is that we're doing this at the global level, but also on the ground. The women that want to achieve the gender equality on the ground, they need to do the same things, and we're working with them to do the same things. And often we see that it is those alliances with the government, civil society with the government, the platforms that need to be created, the networking that they're doing in terms of being able to convince the government to take on board their issues. That's what's positive about those developments have been very positive, I think, in the past years.
And I guess the final one, and I may be barking up the wrong tree here, but in terms of the negotiations, there's often quite a macho element amongst many diplomats and politicians. Do you feel that involving more women in those negotiations might ensure they're more effective in the long run?
I think women will always be prejudiced towards women. We have a different way of negotiating. We also see that because we actually teach negotiating skills also to women delegates. We work with women delegates also from a special fund. And what we see is that women have a different way of negotiating, yes. And it might have maybe better results if we involve more women, yes.